Everything went dark before my eyes. I tried to take my last breath, but my lungs filled with water. That seems to be the end. The last thing I remembered was how I slowly sank to the bottom of the pool and passed out. A sinking mermaid. What a stupid situation. I just wanted attention because my parents ignored me since childhood. I dreamed of having millions of subscribers, but I barely had 100 on my blog in 3 years. I complained to my parents, but they only waved their hand and left to hang out. Because I was born when they were teenagers, Mom and Dad didn't get enough of it. But I can do anything without them. I constantly monitored trends and so came across on YouTube on a show of people with superpowers. But when I saw the account of the winner, Fire Girl, my jaw almost dropped. She kept fire in the palm of her hand and was not burned. That Fire Girl gained 1 million subscribers in a couple of days. Then I decided that I would come up with a superpower and I would become popular. The whole next week, I was making something up, hiding lighters in my sleeves, trying to break the table, but nothing worked out. In fact, what power are we talking about? If I spent all my time at school and swimming training, that's it! Swimming, I couldn't control the water, but what if I would become a mermaid? I bought different fabrics and quickly made a tail, and after that, I posted several videos in the image of a mermaid, but there was only hatred in the comments. How so? You can't break me easily. I said it when I got into salt water. I became a mermaid, and on land, I was a regular person. I decided to record the video to prove it, then I went to the pool near the house. But as soon as I put on my tail and filmed how I added salt to the water, somebody knocked on the gate. Who's there? Parents left for some party for the weekend. Suddenly, some dude with a camera tumbled into the yard. Seeing me, he stared and then clapped with delight. He said he was the director of a show about superhumans. Wow, he saw my channel and decided that he wanted to make a live stream about the life of a mermaid. A live stream? I couldn't believe my ears. The director went on, a week live and you'll be like a fire girl, honey. You're a real mermaid, aren't you? Prove it to the audience. And you will be a star. I already imagined millions of subscribers and immediately agreed. But as soon as the director left, I realized that I was in over my head. How was I supposed to prove it? The audience would look at my every move. I didn't sleep all night and decided to prepare in advance. And when the crew arrived, I was already in the pool. The director was thrilled with the tricks in the water, but shaggy cameraman Rick was scowling at me. And then the director said it was necessary to show the audience something unique. I had to demonstrate how my legs turned into a tail. I was a real mermaid after all, not a girl in a suit. I seriously panicked and answered that I was tired. Maybe we'll continue tomorrow. The director reluctantly agreed, and I was relieved. There was time to think. But the cameraman Rick hissed that he had been working on the show for years and knew that there were no miracles and I was lying. I felt the chills run up my back. Did he want to reveal me? It was uneasy all evening. How could I show that my legs would become a tail? And by midnight, I had an idea. In the morning, I got up before everyone else and glued my tail to the pool wall. Just wanted it all to work out. Filming soon began. I said in a trembling voice that I would now show what no one had seen before, turning my legs into a tail, and sat down on the edge of the pool, lowering my legs above the tail. Be calm, Una. The main thing was to do it neatly. I simultaneously climbed into the tail and fell into the water. I got it! But it was too early to rejoice. I realized that I couldn't make a move. The tail got stuck on the edge. That's the end. I jerked. There was a sound of torn fabric. Everyone heard it. But the director only clapped his hands. It seemed he didn't notice anything. All day, Rick was glaring at me, and in the evening, he suddenly declared he read that mermaids have a beautiful voice. I just had to sing for the audience. To my horror, the director picked up on this idea. So tomorrow, I had to charm everyone with my singing. God, I can't hit the notes. After filming, when everyone left, I took my tail off in a moment. Damn, it was torn. I rushed into the room and started to sew the tail. If no one could see it. Then I started surfing the internet. It was past midnight and I needed to find a suitable voice. I downloaded a relatively good record and in the middle of the night, pulled speakers out of the living room to the backyard. I hope no one notices me lip-syncing. I opened my eyes from a persistent knock on the door. Hell, I forgot to set the alarm and overslept. I always got up before the crew came to discreetly put on a tail, and now there were a lot of people in the yard. I shouted to the director that I was warming up. It took time and rushed back to look for the tail. I think I put it in the wash yesterday. Damn. I burst into the bathroom and immediately opened the washing machine, but that turned out to be empty. I was in panic. Someone stole my tail. Probably this Rick decided to set me up. I went back to my room and almost screamed with despair. Farewell, my dream of popularity. And then my gaze fell on the balcony, where things were drying. My heart almost stopped. Among the bedding hung my tail. What? And then I remembered that I did it myself. Because of lack of sleep, I managed to forget about it. Now it was necessary to distract everyone somehow while I was taking it off. I looked under my legs and saw a pebble. The next second, it flew straight into a tripod standing under the balcony. The camera with a rumble fell on the ground. While the team hastily collected the equipment, I yanked my tail, ran into the yard, and wearing it, jumped into the pool. Trying to hide the excitement, I got the remote, which I hid in the fence, and turned on the speakers. A singer's voice rang out over the whole yard. I opened my mouth to the song, and even for a second, I believed that I was singing myself. How suddenly the column fell silent. I froze. Feeling the heart jumping out of my chest, the team looked at me with anticipation. Then I coughed and sang the phrase myself. I thought it was the end. But the director suddenly started applauding me. The whole team applauded. The director said that he had never seen mermaids. But after my performance, there was no doubt that I was real. By the evening, when the team started to pack things, Rick approached me. He grinned discontentedly that it would be over soon. But not in the way I thought it would be. A shiver ran through my body. What's he up to? Then Rick stated that on the final day, I would have to show the real life of the mermaid. I would have to spend a day underwater. What? I protested, but the director supported Rick again. Within myself, I wailed with despair. But there was no choice. World glory was at stake. A little more and I'm there. So in the middle of the night, I went to my parents' garage. My mother said she was diving, and I really needed help. I was sorting the boxes for a long time, but there was only trash. In despair, I was ready to break down. But then I propped up against the closet. The door opened, and I saw an oxygen cylinder inside. The size was suitable. I could hide it in a tail. If only there was enough oxygen for a day. In the morning, I was shaking with tension, but immersed myself in the water, trying to stretch an oxygen tube through the swimsuit. Una, you can do it. A day underwater. That's okay. The first time was not difficult. I showed tricks and depicted a happy face. But then the operator called me on the surface. I'll finally exhale. I surfaced, and he only mockingly asked, "The mermaid did not go hungry?" And then he handed me algae. The director agreed with him. I was a mermaid and would eat them underwater. It was so nasty. I tried to chew and breathe through the tube at the same time, and all because of Rick. When half an hour was left before the end of the life, oxygen was almost at zero. I tried to take shallow breaths, but the director asked me to show the signature somersault under the water. Suddenly my head was swirling, and I grazed the tube with my hand. Not that! I tried to breathe in and froze. Oxygen did not go. Oh no, did I really damage the tube? It was impossible to retreat. It was necessary to hold out at all costs. Only 7 minutes to go. I held my breath for as long as I could, but suddenly everything around started to go dark. The last thing I remembered was how I slowly sank to the bottom of the pool and passed out. I woke up in the hospital room. I came to my senses for a long time when I noticed the phone on my bedside table. With trembling hands, I opened the show on YouTube. It was scary, but I wanted to know what happened. I thought I was hated, but I was surprised when I started reading comments. The video had already been watched by 6 million people. The audience wrote that they were worried about me and loved me very much for bravery. It didn't matter that I was not a real mermaid. It was important that I wasn't scared to overcome myself and become her. Tears welled up in my eyes, so I can be interesting without the tail? At this point, my parents rushed to me, but they had to be at the party. I thought I would get a scolding, but instead, Mom and Dad hugged me. Mom kissed me. She was very scared and asked me why I made it up. I did not hold back tears. I just wanted someone to need me. Dad sighed and said it was their fault. They should have paid me more attention. rather than trying to catch up on youth at hangouts. Now they saw how I needed their support and love. When I was discharged from the hospital, my parents took me to the sea for me to rest. Now I had a lot of subscribers, all asking when a new life would be. But I said I was not up to it yet. It was important now to spend time with my family. Later, I got a call from Rick. He regretted that it came out like that. He thought about the show and never wanted anything bad to happen to me. At this point, I realized that it was stupid to suspect Rick. We laughed at the story for a long time, and then Rick wished me luck, saying that after meeting me, he believed in a miracle. On the last evening before leaving, I decided to swim in the sea, but as I entered the water, my legs began to tingle. I looked down and didn't believe my eyes. Can't be! There was a tail in place of my feet! Real! I was blown over. It turns out, miracles happen. You only need to believe in them with your best. I turned to the mirror and didn't recognize myself in reflection. There was a huge scar all over my face. It was convex and vile. I was a real freak, so no guy could like me. Thank God that scar is fake. I'm participating in an experiment from one fashion magazine. The goal is to see if I can find a boyfriend with such an ugly scar on my face in 3 days. If I manage, I'll get paid $1,000. My family was poor, and I couldn't dress cool and buy modern gadgets like everyone's. I felt a little outcast because of that. It's so humiliating being a beggar. I'll be beautiful, so I really needed that money. The curator forbade any way to insinuate that my scar was fake. If it popped up, then I definitely would never get the money. And every 3 hours, I had to send them my pics to chat so they make sure the scar was intact. But the thing was that I cheated the curators from the beginning. I have got a boyfriend, so it's sure to be easy money. I'm confident in my boyfriend Zach. He always said he would love me no matter what. I went to school, and everyone of course began to look back at me. Zach stood near the biology office and chatted animatedly with friends. Zach, I'm here. Seeing me, he staggered off. I lied that I had an accident, and I said I loved him very much. But Zach replied with abomination that he couldn't date such a freak and just walked away. What? How? But he told me he would always be around. I had a hard time sitting out my lesson. But then I ran to the toilet. I wanted to get this makeup off sooner. And then I heard some girls whispering next to the stall. One of them said handsome Zach had finally dumped that freak and had already asked the main cheerleader out on a date. I was so bitter and resentful, but Zach would yet regret abandoning me. I came out of the toilet and confidently went to the gym. There was usually rugby team captain Chris practicing. He and Zach had long been at odds. I will win Chris, get money for the experiment, and at the same time, take revenge on Zach dating with his arch enemy. I walked up to Chris and immediately started flirting. That's what I knew. But he just rolled with laughter. He said that I was a beggar woman, and now with an ugly scar. What a jerk. I wanted to leave and push Chris, but he cornered me and started taking photos of me on the phone. Get off, Chris. That's enough. But he held me so tight that I couldn't even run away. But suddenly someone called out to Chris. That was the nerd from my class, Cody. He said the coach was looking for Chris everywhere. He let me go and quickly left. And I told the nerd Cody that I would have managed myself. Cody immediately apologized and said he just wanted to help and then offered a ride to the house. I didn't want to be seen with this loser. But I didn't seem to mind a car ride. And then it turned out he had a stupid bicycle. While we were on the way, I burned with shame, but it was better than listening to the chuckles of passengers on the bus. And Cody looked at me that and then. What are you looking at, loser? And then I thought, Cody was perfect for the experiment. I will quickly fascinate this muff and show the curators that I still found a guy. So when we drove up to my house, I asked him out on a romantic date in gratitude for the rescue. But Cody suddenly hesitated and said abruptly he was very busy in the evening and immediately left. I didn't believe my eyes. Did he just reject me? Damn. And I have little time until the end of the experiment. The next day at school was even worse. Everyone at school knew about my ugliness and called me names. And Zach began to avoid me and even hit a couple of times, but that's okay. I'll survive it. Now my goal is the nerd Cody. So I threw a nice note with 2 tickets to the cinema in his locker and wrote that I would wait for him after the lessons at the black door. As soon as the bell rang, I headed eagerly there. Cody will be mine. But local hooligans were standing there instead of Cody. They quickly looked over and the man ripped my backpack out of my hands. I tried to resist, but they grabbed me and held me while their ringleader searched for money in my backpack. And when he realized that there was nothing, he aimed it at a tree. Then I stepped on one guy's foot with all my strength and broke free. I wanted to take away my backpack, but I hurt my leg and bashed straight into the puddle. The guys only laughed loudly. When suddenly Cody appeared out of now here again. He so deftly knocked down the ringleader that the others immediately ran away. Look at you, nerd! He lifted me out of the dirt, took my backpack, and helped get to the bicycle. I asked him where he had learned this, to which he said he had once done karate. We were already late for the movie, so Cody offered to go home. This time I did mind. I even liked yesterday's bike ride. At home, Cody made me a compress from which the pain in my legs subsided. This was the perfect moment to get closer. I had already bent over to kiss him, but suddenly Cody pulled away and asked, where did I get that scar from? Was he dumping me again? And then Cody looked at me with sympathy and admitted that he understood what it was like to have a defect on the body. Like no one else. What are you about? At this point, Cody unbuttoned his shirt and showed me a huge, ugly scar on his chest. I hadn't seen such in my life. It turned out that as a child, Cody underwent severe heart surgery, but the scar never went away. He was constantly bullied, and because of this, he even neglected his favorite occupation, swimming. Now he even did go to the beach so as not to undress. I suddenly became so embarrassed. I had only been scarred for 2 days, but I was really sick of the cheers. And the scar was fake, all for money. But for Cody, this was a real problem. At this moment, I received a reminder from the curator. Hurry up, there are only 2 days left. I realized there was an urgent need to act and invited Cody to the beach. When he saw me in a bikini, he would immediately agree to be my boyfriend. I began to say that scars should not prevent us from doing what we like, and that if I could walk around with a scar on my face, Cody should stop being shy too. I was scared that he would refuse me, but Cody said he had to think and would give an answer late in the evening. If he refuses, I won't get the money and everything was for nothing. So I was on edge all the evening. But suddenly a text came to me from Cody. He said he thought this through and would pick me up in the morning. The last day of experiment came in the morning and Cody and I went to the beach. There I began to strip to the swimsuit. Cody kept looking around and seemed very tense. I took his hand and said it wasn't as scary as he thought. He just had to decide once. Cody agreed and took off his shirt, but still tried to cover the scar with his hand. And that's where the ball came under our feet. It was Chris, with his guys. They began to laugh at us and call us freaks from the Addams family. Cody immediately blushed, but I strongly took his hand. Let's go swimming, away from these dorks. We entered the water. Cody was delighted. It turned out he missed swimming a lot. We swam to a rock nearby that hid us from everywhere. Our eyes met, and Cody hesitatingly said he was in love with me in middle school. I did not expect this. He came close to kissing me, and I realized I didn't mind. But suddenly Cody changed in his face. Cody, what happened? I touched my scar, and I realized that silicone had peeled off the skin. I tried to stick it back, but it got worse. The scar just fell off my face. Oh no, I tried to explain to Cody about the experiment, but he didn't want to listen. He said he understood everything. I was with these rugby players and just wanted to expose him as an idiot. He immediately ran ashore and quickly left. Cody, wait! I came ashore and burst into tears at the understanding that Cody was the only one who treated me well. Even despite the scar and poverty, I messed it up. But at the same minute, the curator called via video link to find out the progress with the completion of the experiment and saw that there was no scar left. That's when the curator stated that they were depriving me of a cash prize. The experiment failed, but I didn't care. I cried for an hour and then headed home. And when I slammed the front door, Someone knocked on it. It was Cody. He was probably following me. But Zach was on the doorstep, my ex. He quickly began to assure that he realized everything. I was the most beautiful girl in the world. I just had to tell him about the makeup right away. But I just slammed the door in front of Zach. I was very angry at this hypocrite and didn't want to listen to his apology. Then I decided that tomorrow I would apologize to Cody. He was now more important to me than any gadgets and money. In the morning, at school, I started looking for Cody. He sat in the dining room. I sat down nearby and started apologizing. It was all a terrible mistake. But Cody ignored me and headed for the exit. I didn't know what to do. In the meantime, I noticed how other guys were looking at me with sympathy. Screw you all. I only need Cody. Then I climbed on the table, called him loudly, and in front of everyone admitted that he was the best person I had ever met. I wanted to be with him, and I apologized for deceiving him. But Cody didn't even turn around. Was he gone and we would never be able to communicate again for the first time? I felt what it means when you lose a dear person. How suddenly Cody, pushing the crowd aside, climbed on the table and kissed me. Everyone around clapped and loved. I put my hand on Cody's chest and felt the scars, and suddenly I realized that the heart of an incredibly beautiful person was beating behind them. I whispered, "It doesn't matter what you have outside and what you look like. The main thing is what a soul you have." At the same moment, I received a text from the curator about a new experiment. I need to spend a year in a relationship without quarrels. I agreed and thought, what if Cody and I could live like this all our life?
Hello everyone, I'm Nicole and I'm 18 years old. Tell me, do you have any special features in your appearance? Something you're embarrassed about or your parents? Watch this video to the end and learn how to get iron hands and how to learn to live with them. I made the doctors and attendants' jaws drop at my birth. My right forearm was missing. I don't know exactly why, but in any case, I haven't had a right hand all my life. I was wildly shy about it and begged my parents to give me a prosthesis so that I was like other normal children. And what did I hear in response? "Daughter, no, we don't have the money for this, so you can't." My mother tried to convince me that this is normal, that you can adapt to everything. Of course, she can adapt because she doesn't not have a hand. I was bullied at school. And not girls, they were great. But the guys constantly teased me from a distance and called me ugly. Several times I got into fights and even managed to kick someone in the neck. Then my parents would lecture me and tell me that this was proof that I did need a prosthesis. Like, they will only tease me more, and in a fight it will break and Right, there's no money to change it. I know what was behind it. You're already weird. Your hands will attract attention. Why do you need a prosthesis if we still have to feed you with the spoon for the rest of our lives? Well, have your dreams ever come true in the most unexpected way? Once, I was hit by a car. I don't remember how it happened. I think I was crossing the road to green, and then I woke up in the hospital, and my mother was sitting next to me, crying, and my father was crying too. And instead of my hand, I had a stump wrapped in a bandage. The doctor explained everything to me. It turned out that the car did not just collide with me, it literally ran over my arm, and it was impossible to restore it. Can you imagine how absurd this is? The first thing I thought was, oh, my last hand! But, well, now you're not going to get away with it. I pleaded with my mother, made responsible arguments to my father. I said that artificial hands would improve their lives as well as mine, and that it was better at least with artificial hands than without them at all. They couldn't argue with me now. My mother asked me in a quavering voice how much it would cost. My father gasped when he saw the bill, but they were still under the influence of my sad hospital appearance and quickly processed everything. The installation took a long time. I took even longer to get used to them. But there came a time when I could write my own name by hand, and I was almost mad with joy. I was told not to load my hands so that the adaptation of the prosthesis would be more successful. but I couldn't stop running and touching everything. I have hands! Real, my own! Yay! Has it ever happened to you that your relatives did not understand your joys and sorrows? My parents, for some reason, did not share my joy. My father would praise me sourly, and my mother would turn away and almost start crying. I didn't know what was wrong with them. Were they so afraid of my hands? Would they sacrifice my hands for their own comfort? What did I need to do to make my parents love me the way I had become? Resentments accumulated for a long time, and they had to find a way out, the normal way out. For example, I went swimming at school. I had to get used to a new sport and initially swim the paddling pool, but then I started to achieve small success. I also went to therapy sessions to develop my hands, and that's where I met Charlie. Charlie had had surgery on his leg and was also getting used to the prosthesis. I shared my experience with him. We started communicating with each other, and later we realized that we liked each other. And parents, they didn't understand me at all. Dad treated me like a little girl. He tried to feed me with a spoon, didn't trust me even to carry a cup to my room, as if I had 0 hands instead of 2 iron ones. My mother became apathetic. I thought, okay, you don't want to believe in me? I'll make you. The swimming was going well, and if I could get into the competition, then would they drop the act? I really started to train more. And yes, I already achieved great results in 2 months. I was invited to the Paralympic youth competitions. The very first of them was held on a brand new pool. I searched the crowd for the eyes of my friends and family. Charlie and his mom came, and Dad came. Only my mother wasn't there. It hit me in the gut. My vision blurred and my legs gave way, and I almost fell. I got a good track and was able to set myself up to win, but I only had one thought in my head. She doesn't want to see me? Even now? Even when I go for a medal? I didn't lose, although I was in the most depressed mood. We all went to the cafe together, but when we were alone with Charlie, he told me something that startled me and almost killed me on the spot. My mom called him and told him to stop messing with my head. He didn't want to tell me about it before the competition, so as not to spoil the mood. But since my mom just didn't show up, what would you do if you found out that your mother had forbidden the boy to see you? Would you get angry? Start yelling? Would you try to talk peacefully? I almost immediately went home and made a huge fuss. My mother also started yelling at me, and in a fit of anger, she blurted out, "You'll never be normal. Don't lie to yourself." I said, "All right," and started packing. It only took me 15 minutes to get ready, and then I just went out with my bags, and I took the ground transport to Charlie's. He was terrified when he saw me. He said I was putting too much weight on my hands and helped me carry things to their house. My mom and dad started calling me. Eventually, I picked up the phone and told them everything. I threatened to sue for my emancipation if they kept calling me, and I didn't answer the phone again. Until the end of the school year. I almost gave up on the exams, but I still passed them and even got a diploma. After the ceremony, the kids and I decided to have fun, have a few drinks, and I was so relaxed that I answered the phone without looking. It was Dad. He said just a few words to me. "Your mother has cancer." I didn't believe it at first. It was very clever to make me come back for fear that my mother would be ill. Well, it worked out. I rushed home and immediately realized this was not blackmail, but a real disease. The tumor was launched to such a stage that the doctor decided that the leg would have to be removed and quite urgently. You should have seen my mother at that moment. She laid there all night looking at the ceiling, and then she got hysterical. Mom broke the service, crying and shouting that now she was a nobody, a pathetic, helpless invalid, and now she would never have a normal full life. I was angry. I'm not a fool, and I knew that she was talking about me too. I sharply grabbed her by the shoulders, slapped her. You know how great it turns out with Cyberhand. and growled, "Okay, calm down." My mother was shocked enough to stop talking, and I spoke. I was all talked out. I told her I just fucking graduated from high school, that I had a class in swimming and a cool guy who loved me, lots of friends, my first job that I got thanks to my prosthetics. I didn't have a damn problem with my prosthetics. All my problems were because of my mother. Here, I admit, it was ugly, but it sobered my mother like a second slap in the face. She looked down at her leg again. She said she didn't know how to live like this. She'd been normal all her life. I replied that the main thing was just to live. My mother didn't believe me, but my words helped her. Her leg was actually removed, and she was sobbing, holding my dad and me by the hand. But then we raised money and paid for her to have a prosthesis installed. My mother was actually starting to learn to walk again. She complained to me every night on the phone that she couldn't look at her reflection without being disgusted. I calmed her down and told her that she was very beautiful. And Dad told her too. Recently, my mother went out for the first time in shorts, and I was happy with her little victory. By the way, where did she go in her shorts? To watch my competition, of course. It's amazing how much garbage people have in their heads, and how it can ruin their lives and the lives of their loved ones. It's amazing how things change if you help a person clean up a little. My mother and I were able to overcome our prejudices. Look at your relatives too. Maybe mutual understanding is just around the corner? Did you like the video? Put a like so that YouTube will show it to your friends. And by the way, did you remember to subscribe to our channel and send us your new freaky stories?